I made a TikTok today about I took that old spindle we cut off.
I saw it.
Got a bunch of questions. What's that thing? How's that work? I'm like, did y'all? It's like a minute video with words on the screen. I guess y'all can't handle that.
Right.
All right. Audio check. How's everything sounding, y'all? YouTube is live. TikTok is live. Oh, goodness. Here, real quick, see how. And the shop vlog has got more activity. Mm. Righty. 3 more minutes. Say something, Larry. Check
Check
your audio.
1. Check 1, testing. Check 1, 2, 3.
Evan says, as crisp as a freshly cut lawn on Saturday morning.
Only Evan could say that. All righty. I'm going to try not to say any words that gets our live restricted on TikTok this evening. Be very Don't use it.
careful.
Don't talk about any drugs, okay?
Right.
Or any kind of
Yeah, just nope, hush. It's just
any kind of violent activities, okay?
right. Listen, I see the stuff they let go by on TikTok Live. You know, it comes across your feed occasionally, but
Not us. If they catch us
I don't have.
driving, they shut us down.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of equipment. You know, of course, if I did, you know. Oh, 1 more minute. Almost there. This guy on TikTok says, I miss going live while trucking. You need to put a green screen in a truck, you know, then you pretend like you're doing a video game. Just put a green screen curtain behind you, then they won't know. And there it is. It is 8:00. Good evening, lunatics. Welcome to another episode of the Blue Ribbon Podcast, where leasing a truck is stupid and paying on a 1099 is criminal. We are back with you again. Yes, I look tired. I've been at the shop the last couple of days. We put out a new shop video last night, the third shop video in 3 weeks. So we're doing good as far as taking care of actually being consistent. we had a spindle replaced on a truck, and I had never seen that done in person before. Where the axle surgeon from Ohio came down and cut the spindle off, put a new one in. It's a really, really fascinating process how they get that thing in there and get it just perfect. I mean, it's he gets that thing right on the money, and so it's really fascinating to watch. So we took a lot of video of it, and it's over there on the YouTube channel. So go over there and have a look. Those post every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And of course, the podcast starts Friday at 8 p.m. So I did not do the financial report this Wednesday. I had to be rescue dad. My daughter was having some trouble, so I had to go take care of her. But I'll get back to that Wednesday. That'll be a regularly scheduled thing to do the financial report Wednesday, the shop vlog on Thursday, and of course the podcast here on Friday night. So we have had quite a bit going on. We had an alignment customer come in over the weekend, or I'm sorry, not over the weekend, yesterday. Has been chasing terrible tire wear on his drives, and of course Kyle dug into it, was able to fix it. All of his wheel bearings were loose, and he needed a tie rod, a couple of tie rods. So we got the truck lined up, fixed, so it should stop wearing the tires as bad as it was, and should be driving straight for him. So he was very, very pleased. We've got a truck in the shop right now that the parts were 2 days out 2 weeks ago. So we finally got all the parts. It's getting leaf springs and kingpins, tie rods, shocks, torque arms. I mean, it's getting a ton of work, and it's the first international that we've messed with. Hopefully, it is the last of that particular suspension that the maniacal geniuses at International came up with. It's absolute junk. Rocky told us as soon as he saw it, he was like, ugh, yuck. But we got her taken care of. So the shop is now fully operational. They're in Charleston, West Virginia. You can come and see it, and um, and get your OPS installs, MD alignments, diesel force cleaning. And of course, we'll have all of that on the video every Thursday. Whatever we're doing from Wednesday to Wednesday will be posted on that Thursday. So come and follow along with us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get updates whenever we upload a video. Trucker Brent says, I just learned something. I can listen to your live while I'm driving. Yes, that is true. TikTok Live will actually play in the background.
You just can't make one.
Right. You can't make one while you're driving.
Can't create one, but you can listen to one.
Yeah. So yeah, this somebody's asking about this international. It is what do you call that? ProStar.
It's white.
It's a 2017, I believe. 17 or 18. And it has this weird torque box on the back with 4 bushings on it. And when we got the truck, the whole rear axle was moved 1 3/4 inches to the right. We believe that the driver must have hit something because the owner of the truck was not aware of the damage. But on one side, the shock bolt was probably 1/4 inch from hitting the tire. So that torque box is $2,800, by the way. And they've got one on the front axle and one on the rear axle. It's just a terrible, terrible design. And also today we had we had a mentoring client in the shop that has a Peterbilt 587 who made the unfortunate decision to go to a Love's last week and asked them to put shocks on. So of course they got the torch out and melted. There's a beam on that truck. There's a beam that goes under the axle that the leaf spring or that the U-bolts go through, and then on the back of that is where the shock connects. And I guess they couldn't get the bolt out, so they started heating up that housing and literally melted it. So we had to replace that today, and going to have to get him a spring bushing in the morning. But we got that taken care of. Do y'all know of any MD alignment techs in North Carolina? I don't. Rocky is in Jacksonville, Florida. We are in Charleston, West Virginia. And then, of course, if you get out to Kansas City, you can go see Chad Hone, or in Michigan, you can see Jim Fowler. Those are the kind of big names that we know that we're familiar with.
You could go to MD Alignment's website, and there's a map on there that tells you who bought the equipment. But keep in mind, that just means that at one point in time, they paid for the equipment and sent somebody to training. That doesn't mean that they're still there. That doesn't mean that they were very good when they learned the training. So there's no suggestion that that's an MD shop like the ones we just mentioned are, but there
Right.
could very well be one in your area. But just understand, owning the equipment and utilizing it, and especially doing it in the processes that we support, are not necessarily 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. The truck yesterday with the loose wheel bearings had been to another MD shop in some other state. And he said they never checked any of that. And, Kyle took it apart, and, you could turn the nuts with your fingers. The wheel bearings were, incredibly loose. So we got him straightened out.
They were not adjusted to spec.
Correct. And that's something that you check. I mean, on this video that we published yesterday, Kyle goes through, in the second half of the video, Kyle goes through the entire inspection process of what is involved in checking the steer axle, checking the drive axle, um, making sure that that the truck is capable of being aligned. That's the problem when you go to these truck stops and they put them on these hunter machines. Set aside the fact of whatever the hunter machine is, they're not checking the truck to make sure that it is capable of holding an alignment. So if they're not checking your bushings, they're not checking your kingpins, they're not checking your tie rods, they're not checking your bushings and your bearings, it's a complete waste of money. It doesn't matter if you put it on a hunter machine or an MD machine. If the truck has worn or broken suspension parts, doing an alignment is a complete waste of time. It's just throwing money away. So, at the very minimum, you need to make sure that they are properly inspecting the truck to make sure that the suspension is solid, and then getting it in position where it will actually hold the alignment. Then now you've got something you can spend your money on. So, Kyle is going to, if you bring your truck to our shop, Kyle is going to go over that truck from front to back with a tape measure and a dial indicator, and an angle finder, and he's going to check and make sure your steer axle is square, and make sure your caster angles are correct, and make sure your tie rods are good, and your drag link and your wheel bearings and bushings and torque rods. Because if any of that stuff's worn out, just don't get an alignment. You're just wasting money. Just take the window and throw it out the window, or put it in an envelope and send it to me. I'll take it. Is the address on the website? Yes, it is. Go to blueribbonlogistics.com. You can set your appointment there. Yeah, and please do that. Go to the website and set an appointment. We don't set them up by phone call. You need to go to the website, and then we'll get you taken care of. Is that Alignment Solutions out of Kansas City? Yes, it is.
That's Chad's. That's the name of Chad's business in Kansas City.
Yeah,
He's
that's
the MD
Chad
alignment person in Kansas City.
He's just up on the north side of Kansas City.
He just opened a second shop in Arizona.
Yep. So if you're in Arizona, there's another good MD shop. I can't remember their name. We had one of our trucks stop out there. But Chad is working out there also now, somewhere close to Phoenix, I think.
Chad's son is running the shop in Kansas City now. Chad has moved to Arizona. What's the town in Arizona? Did he go to Phoenix?
Well, he went to part of Phoenix. I can't think of the name of it right off the top of my head. It's one of those like suburbs.
Suburbs, yeah.
Rocky says that DAZ, Delta Alpha Zulu, DAZ mobile alignments in Knoxville, Tennessee. Brian is his name if you're around Eastern Tennessee. Rocky said Arizona Laser Alignment is the other place that's out there near Phoenix.
Okay.
Um,
Somebody made a comment. Trucker Brent, he bought the books, is going to try it himself. Well, let me tell you something. The first time my truck was aligned, it was aligned by Mike Beckett himself. And he came out to, and we did it in the parking lot. He did it with some big long piece of string and some masking tape. So it
Mhm.
doesn't take fancy equipment. The equipment that we use only are lasers to help make the measuring easier. It's
Mhm.
not doing the work is still being done by Kyle, and we don't have to have the lasers to make it happen. It's just easier to do it that way because it projects the laser beam onto a measured device where we can measure it easier.
Mhm.
But that doesn't do the alignment. That just tells you where it is. Aligning the truck does not require any special equipment except just elbow grease and your desire to want to get under the truck and do it.
Yep.
And the books are he has more than one book now, by the way. There's actually 3 books. But those are very informative. And if you understand it and you got a mechanical background, there's no reason why you couldn't do your own alignments.
Yep. Yep. That's for sure. I mean, it's just taking measurements. Checking things with the, like tie rod ends with a big pair of channel locks. Just making sure that the suspension of the truck is sound, is not overly worn. And I mean, we see trucks with 400,000 or 500,000 miles on them that are ready for bushings. I mean, this truck today, this International, it's got 460,000 miles on it, and it's got a really bad lean to the driver's side, and both of the front leaf springs are wore out. So we put springs on it, and, all those torque rods and everything. But you don't have a choice. That suspension has to be perfect, or you're wasting your time and money getting an alignment. So
and,
please
and
stay away from.
you're going to keep putting tires on it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Terry, DAZ
Mhm.
is an MD alignment shop. What do you charge for an overhead on a Series 60? Um, we just for the record, we're not in a position to do these for the general public yet, but when we do it, it's $1,000. We're hoping to grow into that at some point. Um, we're just not there yet. Do you check cab bushings? Not as a part of an alignment, because the cab bushings will obviously affect your ride, but it doesn't have anything to do with the alignment itself. We have a truck that we're putting cab bushings in. Of course, it's 22 years old with a couple million miles on it. But if you're driving a Century or Columbia, or probably any truck for that matter, and you change those cab bushings, it's a life changing experience. You know, no, new set of shocks
Including
and
the shock that's on the back of it, the little
yeah,
tiny shock.
yeah, it makes it goes a long way in how and motor mounts. If you guys
Mhm.
with the older trucks, 7, 8, 900,000 million miles, um, Larry has a story about tomatoes, that so many vibrations from the motor when those motor mounts wear out, will scramble your eggs. Um, and that was what,
And your organs.
yeah, and that was something that amazed me. When I came to work for Larry in 18, I got into an '05 that had, I don't know, a million three, and literally was one of the best driving trucks that I had ever driven. And then I got into Metro, um, and I mean Metro, but he had put motor mounts in it and cab shocks and cab mounts and had taken really good care of that truck. And MD aligned it, with the exception of his wore out ass steering box that I had to deal with first couple days. But, um, you know, but once I got that fixed, that truck was a dream to drive. Grim Reaper 3189. Have you guys started using Lunatic Trucks 2.0, and how well has it worked out for you? We have. We have 2 trucks. We have 2 Cascadias, a 16. It's either a 16 and an 18 or 17 and 18. I think it's a 16 and an 18. The 18 has been relatively trouble free. I think obviously we did an alignment and bushings and stuff like that, but I think we had to put a radiator in at one time. We had the filters cleaned, but it is pretty much knock on wood, been trouble free. Now, the 16, on the other hand, when we got it had been rode hard and put up wet, as they say. It was not in great shape. And we had to put a transmission in it. That was $9,000 plus labor. We had to put a clutch in it right before that. Now, if the clutch and the transmission had been at the same time, it would have been a little bit less. But the maintenance cost on that truck is unreasonably high because of the transmission.
But
And
we haven't
again,
had emissions issues out of either one of them.
correct. We had filters cleaned on both. We run max mileage on both. So the emissions is not really an issue. You know, the Cascadia, yes, that's an automatic. The DT12. The problem with the Cascadia, the risk level that comes with that truck is the automatic transmission is prohibitively expensive to replace, and the CPC. There's a little computer box about that big in the dash, and it was the thing that was being stolen years ago for whatever reason. When those CPCs
they were on national back order, that's why.
Yeah. When those CPCs go bad, and I've seen it a couple of times in the shop, you know, they either won't start or you lose the throttle pedal. And I even saw one where they ordered one, put it in the truck, programmed it, and it immediately went bad and had to replace it literally 20 minutes after they installed it. So all of the modules that they put in these trucks now to run all the lights and to run the HVAC system, and you know they've put these modules in, which provide an extra level of comfort over the Century and Columbia, but that comfort comes with risk. And so, you know, that's why I still prefer 04 to 07 Columbias. It's the best iteration of the Columbia. You know, and they're so simple to work on. I mean, it's switches, fuses, relays. You know, for about $1,000, you can replace all the wiring under the hood, the sensor harness, the interface harness. You know, and it's about an 8-hour job that you could do yourself. I mean, it's not something you've got to pay a shop to do. You could take a day and replace all your engine harnesses. You know, they're just so easy to work on. I'm still not comfortable with the level of risk that comes with a Cascadia automatic. Now, a manual would reduce that risk somewhat, but you've still got emissions, you've still got modules and all that kind of stuff. But you know, you're going to get better fuel mileage with the Cascadia. I mean, our two best trucks for fuel mileage are the 18 Cascadia and the 07 Century. They fight. They're back and forth for number one every week. So it's not to say that a Century can't be an 8 mile per gallon truck, because they certainly can. We have a guy that averages about 8 miles per gallon with an 07 Century pulling a 53-foot flatbed. And then we have that 18 that for a long time pulled a Conestoga. It's back to pulling a van right now. And it stays in the 8s. So, but, you know, like we've said so many times, you know, success in business is all about managing risk. And the truck that you choose, I'm looking at you, Peterbilt 587 people with PACCARs and T680s. The truck that you choose will have a lot to do with that risk profile. You could not give me free a PACCAR engine. I would not accept it. If you gave it to me and said, here, I gift you this PACCAR, I would sell it to some idiot that doesn't know any better, and I would go find a different truck. I absolutely, under no circumstances, would operate a PACCAR engine, period, end of story. Now, the comment will come, well, mine's great. Okay, congratulations. I'm glad for you. I'm happy for you, but I don't want anything to do with a PACCAR engine. If I've got to have something other than a Detroit, it's going to be a Cummins. Now, this guy yesterday is driving a Mack. And he had a lot of glowing things to say about this Mac and the engine and the emissions. And um, he said, Bryson said, add Max Force to that. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody knows you don't drive a Max Force. Do we like Cat? Well, yeah, I like Cat, except they stopped producing engines 17 years ago. There's nothing wrong with a Cat. Cats are fantastic engines. But these days, you're not going to find a lunatic truck with a Cat in it. You will occasionally stumble across what would it be? Late 90s to 2001 or 2 Century that would have a Cat before Daimler locked everybody out. There's nothing wrong with Cat engines. But again, we're talking about, please everybody remember, we're talking about first time owner operators here. The first time owner operator needs the least risky, most efficient, easiest and cheapest to work on truck that they can find. And that is going to be 100% of the time a Century or Columbia. It checks every single one of those boxes. Reliable, efficient, cheap, easy to work on, inexpensive to work on.
Easy to find.
And easy to find. I saw one today. Well, I see a bunch of them. I saw one today for $11,000. I just can't go wrong with them. It's, as a driver, sure. If all that mattered was the experience behind the wheel, I would be driving a classic, a W9 or a 379, if that's all that mattered. But in business, that doesn't matter at all. That's not even among the consideration when you're in business. The comfort level, how it handles, none of that matters. The only thing that matters, cheap, efficient, easy to work on, and cheap to work on. That's all that matters. Now you could put you a really nice seat in a Cascadia and get one of the big stupid tall ass shifters, so you could feel like you're driving one of them bull haulers, and well, don't put that stupid visor on it, because it'll kill your fuel mileage. But you can just pretend, just open the exhaust and you can pretend like you're driving a long hood. But if you want to be in business and you want to stay in business, you need a truck that's going to be cheap and easy to work on. That's all that matters. The roads are filled with broke people driving shiny trucks. And as we have seen from a guy that sent us a weekly settlement from a lease purchase, dude's getting paid less than 20 cents a mile to drive that truck. Why y'all do this? Why in the world y'all keep signing up for these lease purchase scams and basically are paying them to drive their truck? I mean, it's absolute insanity that the average stupidity in America, I won't even call it, I refuse to call it average intelligence anymore because it doesn't exist. The average stupidity among American adults these days is horrifying for the stuff that y'all will sign up for. And not only sign up for it, you will defend it till the absolute death, no matter how many times people try to use things like mathematics and logic and common sense to get you to figure out what an absolute screw job these carriers are doing to y'all with these lease purchase programs. And oh man, I love it. It's great. Well, you don't know how to use a calculator. That's for sure. Because it's just lunacy that y'all put up with this garbage.
Well, it's the same ones that are on Facebook all the time complaining about the rates. Can't get out of Florida, can't get out of California, can't get out of here. You can't find a rate that you'll run for, but you'll go out and buy a truck that costs you more to operate. So something doesn't match there. There's a logic issue there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't accept it one way and then turn around and not accept it the other way.
Right.
Both of those involve the calculator. If you could use the calculator to figure out that you cannot take a load for $1 a mile, why can't you use the same calculator and figure out that you can't buy that truck and operate it in this market with the freight rates that you have available. Because it all comes down to cost. Everything comes down to cost. Every one of those trucks you're talking about, the cat, it all comes down to what does it cost to operate it.
Mhm.
And everybody's not going to get 900,000 miles out of a Cascadia without a transmission problem. One or two people will. Look, I got 1.8 million miles out of a Mercedes motor. I wouldn't go buy another one. I didn't know what I was doing when I bought that one, but I certainly wouldn't buy another one now just because I did that. Um, but you have to apply logic here. This is all about understanding how to stay in business. And you can't stay in business if you can't make any money. And if you're paying money for something just because you want it for whatever reason, it's got a cat name on it or whatever reason it is that you want to do it. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. You're starting off in the hole, which is the problem with these lease purchases that we're talking about. You start out buying a truck and paying $1,000 a week for it, and then when it's done, you got to pay $82,000 to buy it. Well, it wasn't worth $82,000 when you signed the lease, much less 104 weeks later. So
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to understand that all these decisions have consequences. You may pretend they don't. You may act like it doesn't matter, but it will eventually matter and come back and bite you in the ass.
I
So
mean,
I had told everybody last week that I was going to try to sell you on a lease purchase, and I've
oh,
got the
yeah.
I got the 2 contracts out that I have, and I couldn't in good conscience do it because I couldn't think of anybody when I read these that would sign this. I couldn't think of anybody. I've never met anybody that I call my friend that I think would sign one of these. So there's not any way I'm going to be able to do what I promised you, and that is try to sell you a lease purchase. Because again, if you get a calculator out and a fifth grade education, you read this, there's no way that you would agree to do this. There's just not any way you would do it. Um, I've spent all afternoon reading through these lease, and here's the thing about it: everything bad about them, it's not hidden. It's in black and white. It tells
Right.
you right up front. It tells you right everything that's good, bad, indifferent about it is in there. The problem is you don't read it, you don't believe it, you think it's not going to happen to you. Believe me, if it's in there, it's happened. That's why it's in there. Okay. Um,
Right.
these
It's
provisions are
like you
there.
always.
These provisions are there so that when it happens to you, the decision has already been made. You've already agreed to the results. You just didn't read it when you signed it.
It's like you always said. There's a reason that there's a sign that says "Do not eat the urinal cakes,"
Right.
because
Right.
somebody before looked down in there and went, "They left me a
Hmm.
mint," you know?
Look,
Uh,
there's some lease purchases laying down in there. Let me just grab some of them.
Juan Jesus Munoz on TikTok asks a good question here, if I can get my computer to cooperate. How did you guys overcome being on the road for weeks and away from family? Um, well, I was a truck driver when I met my wife, and so, we knew we made a decision when my daughter that just graduated, is 18. When she was 6 months old, we were struggling financially, and I was trying not to be a truck driver. And I said, "Well, hey, look, I've got this CDL. I mean, it's pretty much a guaranteed money making scheme." And so I went on the road, and it was hard. We didn't have video chat like we do now. Skype was like brand new. And I remember the first time that I came home after being gone 3 or 4 weeks, and I walked in the door, and that baby girl did not remember me. And that was like an absolute knife to the chest, right? Um, Fast forward to when I decided to do a lease purchase with Anderson. It was at the time, based on what I knew, it was the best option I had. Um, and I went into it, and I started on literally on January 1st of 2011, and we got to about Easter. And the way the things were set up, and the decisions that I had made, we were making money. I was making more money than I had as a company driver. But every time I would come home, I would go in the hole, right? Because those lease payments. And so we had a discussion, Easter of 2011. So that means my daughter was 5 and my son was 2. My son was 2. My daughter was 5. She said, look, you're just going to have to run. I mean, if you're going to do this, the plan was we're going to do it for 2 years and then I would buy my own truck. If you're going to do this, you're going to have to just go do it. Right. Cause coming home is not an option. So at that point, I decided that from then on, I would do 6 to 8 weeks out and come home and do 4 or 5 days off. And so she's at home with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm gone 6 to 8 weeks at a time. And it was hard. When you go forward from that, when I bought my truck.
This isn't only in the trucking business, okay?
Right.
There's a lot of people who are in business that their business takes them away from their home, and they have to come up with a way of coping with that. Overcoming is not the word. You're probably not going to overcome it. But what about people who are deployed in the military for months on end? What about
Welders,
people,
contractors, oil field
yeah,
workers?
I mean, there are people that work in the same city that they live and don't see their families for weeks on ends,
Yeah.
because you make decisions that you have to set your priorities. If your family understands that you being gone for weeks at a time is what puts a roof over their heads and food in their mouth and sends them to college, then that's just something you have to accept. You can't have it both ways. And this is not a trucking thing. This is you can listen. You can go get. You could be on a sports team. I mean, look at coaches. They're immersed in their job for weeks on end, a season, where they live in the town they're in, but they don't ever go home. They're in the office
Right.
all the time. So I mean, this is just part of maturity and deciding to be in business. You're not going to overcome it. You're going to have to balance it. You're going to have to. The reward has to be something that is worth the sacrifice. Um, I've talked many times on this about being in business requires a sacrifice. That's probably the biggest sacrifice. Um, But it's not. It's probably any person that's successful, highly successful in their field. They have made sacrifices. And in your case, you're talking about the sacrifice of not being with your family every night or however often you want to be there. But that's just a sacrifice that you have to make to accomplish something. That's a decision that you and your family have to get together and make. When we have people that come here in our program, and in our questionnaire, it says that basically their answer is, "I don't give a shit what my wife thinks." That's a big red flag. Okay, the
Right.
first thing we want to do is get her on this interview, because I guarantee you this hasn't been discussed between the two of them. And the best way to lose an employee is to have one that doesn't think their wife gives a shit, because she'll
Yeah.
pull him home in a heartbeat. So you just have to address it and deal with it head on, not think it's not going to matter. Go do it, and then try to overcome it after you've made a decision that wasn't the best decision for you. The way you deal with it is you make the decision together up front. Then you don't have to overcome anything. You just have to deal with it, and
Right.
you can come up with a plan. Especially nowadays with technology the way it is. Um, Look, I didn't I did almost 5 years where I was home awake. I mean, just a handful of hours a week. But the way I did it is that, I tried to make the most of it. I commuted home in my personal vehicle instead of driving the truck home. That gave me more hours to be home. Um, you just do what you have to do to make it work, and then you have to decide: is this worth the $1,000,000 I made in 4 years, or would I just be home every weekend and be broke? You just have to make decisions, and decisions require um, you dealing with the consequences. And I mean, that's the only way you can answer that is you just have to make the reward worth the sacrifice.
Yep. Well, when I came to work for Larry, um, you know, I met him through a Facebook message. Didn't know him from Adam. I had to use all of my discernment, to decide, is this guy
Mm.
worth basically trusting? Because I was leaving a steady job, even though it wasn't enough to pay our bills. I knew my paycheck was coming on Friday, right?
What was the one rule I told you had to do in order to meet me? What was the one thing I told you had to happen?
I had to bring her, and I told her that, and she said, "I ain't going." I said, "Get in the car. If I have to drag you by your hair, you will
I
get
said,
in
if
the
you
damn
don't
car."
bring her, don't come. I'm not talking to you by yourself
Right.
because of this, what you just said. I knew that would be something that have to be overcome. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to overcome it. I just wanted to deal with it head on up front.
So when I left, my cousin Joe drove me to Indianapolis to meet Larry, and he said, "When will you be home?" I said, "Brother, I don't have a clue, because all I know is I have got to get in this truck, and I have got to go as hard as I can go, because."
Because this crazy motherfucker drives all night every night.
Right. Right. And I knew that, well, of course, at that time he had me set up on this FedEx dedicated that I was looking forward to, like a root canal. Um, and but I had done the math, right? Which we always say, do the math. And I had done the math. And if everything he said was true and I did what I needed to do, I was going to make enough money to keep my house from getting foreclosed on, because that was next. Foreclosure and repossession were right around the corner. It was imminent. They were coming. And during the orientation, he got a phone call, and that FedEx thing fell apart. And we were walking through Walmart up there, and he said, "Listen, I just got a phone call, and this FedEx thing that I had for you fell apart. So I'm just going to have to let you run the board." I said, "You bet your sweet ass, old man. Watch this." And I proceeded to fill his bank with money upon money upon money, and I absolutely ran a dog shit out of that truck, and got us out of the hole that we were in. But I had to focus on the first thing first. And what was the first thing? I had to run, and I ended up being home almost every weekend. I think I only stayed out a couple of weekends beyond that. The market was great, and I knew how to do what I needed to do.
And you
But there
lived in
was
the area
always
that it worked out.
correct. I lived in a great spot where I could pick up a load on Friday, reset at home, deliver Monday, and it worked out. And as Blue Ribbon started to grow, knowing that there would be a time, it was becoming inevitable that I was not going to be able to continue to drive and keep up with everything I had to keep up with. I was dispatching myself and 2 or 3 or 4 other trucks, and there came a point where it was like, okay, we got to look at the real possibility of me coming out of the truck and moving into this chair. And I told him, as we were getting there, I said, "Listen, I'm doing this once, right? I am not getting out of the truck and then, oops, oh well, we got to get back in the truck. Once I'm out of the truck, we're done. I'm not driving anymore." Well, that was August of 21 that I got out of the truck, and I've been off the road ever since. But I had to exercise a kind of patience that I had never exercised before, right? And so from March of 18 to August of 21st to August of 21, I drove that truck just as hard or harder than anybody else that we had in that position. And until the day that I stopped, I ran just as hard or harder than anybody else. Um, and so it was hard. It was a sacrifice. And then when I came home, it was, because now I've got these other humans that kind of were doing their own deal, like, and then, who the hell's this guy? Who are you, and why are you here? Why is all your stuff here, and why are you here every day? Like, that took a little getting used to, um, but it was hard, and I had to exercise patience, and you have to do that in business, right? You've got to set a goal. You've got to do everything it takes to attain that goal. And then you've got to be patient enough to wait for that, as they say, the boat to come alongside the dock before you jump. Did Larry dispatch you, or you dispatch yourself? No, I dispatched myself. He gave me a login to the board, and I went and showed him how it was done. And there was many dollars that was proof that I knew
He
what
had
I was
as much experience at Landstar that I did, probably more. It made no sense for me to dispatch. Plus, on top of that, he brought his own customer with him.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have nobody actually dispatched him. It was already done.
Listen, hey, that day we were walking through Walmart. I had 4 loads booked before we got out the front door. I hit that board and I started making phone calls. Matter of fact, it was our friend at that one agent's, that lady that we're not big fans of, but they have pretty good freight. I had gotten carried away walking through that Walmart, and I had booked like four or five loads before we left the building. And then I started doing the math, and I'm like, I think I just went a little overboard. And I had to call her back, and I said, "Hey, I told you I was going to do that load, but that's not actually possible." And she wasn't all that happy with that, but she got over it. What did Larry pay you a week? He paid me percentage.
Larry didn't pay him shit. Chris made percentage of what he earned.
On
Chris
25%,
paid me. I didn't pay him. He paid me a lot.
on 25% of line haul and accessorials, I made from March 14th to the end of the year, I made $90,000. So listen, y'all, I was picking them up and putting them down. Right. I mean, I was getting shit done. Literally we went from certain foreclosure to all the bills were caught up in about 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, it was just knocking them down, taking care of business. But I was highly motivated.
And he did not make stupid mistakes.
Right.
He just needed somebody to give him opportunity. That's all I did. And he took the ball and ran with it.
Yeah, and that was dry van freight at that time. In 18, listen, the market was hot in 18. And I'll tell you, I want to, since we're telling this story, I want to tell the other half of it too, because I had been back, I want to say 3-4 months maybe. And so, I had started talking to agents that I had, had known from before. And I stopped in Canton, Ohio one day to visit one of my favorite dispatchers. She was my dispatcher when I had the dedicated run, when I had my own truck. And so I just stopped in there to visit one day, and we had a good time. And it was so funny because she was like, "Oh, we got this freight and we got that freight." And I'm like, "What's it pay?" And she was like, she told me, and I'm like, "Honey, that wouldn't even show up in my load search right now." I mean, the way the market is, so they had these dedicated customers that they could get covered. So now with me showing up there at the office that day, let everybody know that I was back. Okay. Well, what I don't know is at that time, my old dedicated customer that was made house windows, they were having a really hard time getting the lane that I used to do covered, which was Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York. Nobody could get it done because it was 15, 18 stops a week. And they had tried other carriers, and it was a disaster. And so the Landstar agent is trying to get that business back. And he tells the guy, he said, "Look, here's what it's going to take. Okay. If you want us to do this, it's going to cost you $2.50 a mile. It's going to cost you $50 a stop for unloading. It's going to cost you the fuel surcharge. You're going to pay all the tolls, and you're going to pay us round trip to come back empty." And the guy said, "Well, I don't know what kind of stuff you're smoking, but that ain't happening. There is absolutely no possible way that I'm going to do all that." And then old Mike reaches in his back pocket and he goes, "What if I got Chris to do it?" "Oh, Chris is back." "Yeah, yep. Chris is back driving for a BCO. Will you do $2.50 a mile, $50 a stop, fuel surcharge, pay all the tolls, and pay round trip empty for Chris to do it?" "Yes." And so from that day, which was probably, I want to say, I don't know, August or September or something of 18, until about a year and a half after I left, or after I stopped driving, we were on that freight. Round trip, paid the tolls, paid the money. He tried to drop the rate one time, and we gave him a big hot steaming cup of hell no, and that didn't work. And they still have that customer today. There's some BCO running it, right? But that was the impression that I left when my truck blew up and I wasn't able to do it anymore, right? And let's remember, the customers are great because they don't give a rip. They're only satisfied to the extent with which you can serve them. And the minute you stop being able to serve them, you're done. right?
What have you done for me lately?
Right. But when when presented with an opportunity to get me back, knowing that that's one run, W7, that went out every Tuesday, he knew I ain't got nothing to worry about. If there's a shortage or overage or damage, I ain't got to worry about it. He's going to fix it. If somebody screws up and puts the wrong stuff with the wrong place, he's going to fix it. He's just going to call me and say, "Hey, I fixed this." Right? When a customer in Utica, New York, took off a door that didn't belong to them, and I got to Buffalo and figured it out, you know what I did? I drove my ass back to Utica, picked it up, and brought it back. Did we get paid for that? No. On that day, we didn't, but we got paid the entire time for 3+ years that we were on that freight because he knew I was going to take care of his customer and he didn't ever have to worry about it. That's what you need to aspire to be. If you can't handle that, please don't get in business. Please don't do it, because you're going to be miserable and you're going to fail. Failing as a company driver is not that big of a deal. You just go get another job. Failing as a business owner, that's destructive. That's bankruptcy. That's divorce, and sometimes worse. Right? We've seen some really, really, really terrible things happen to good people because they did business wrong. Right? You can't afford to do business wrong.
Here's one of the first things that you do wrong when you go from company driver to business owner is this shit right here.
And there's plenty of people in this industry that'll tell you how to do it wrong. Well, ask yourself the question, who benefits?
This industry will tell you how to do it wrong.
Mm-hmm. But learn to ask that question, who benefits? Who benefits? Is it me, or is it some bank or leasing company? Or, if it's not you, you're not the beneficiary, don't do it. Take one of these lease contracts. Of course, they won't let you have it. Or find somebody to give you a lease contract. Take it to an attorney and let him read it.
Let me read you page 1 of the one we got just recently, okay? Because I think they must have listened to us. Okay, let me get it out here. I want to read you page 1. It's the cover letter. I'm not going to say the name of the company because I don't want to get anybody in trouble here. This was given to us by a listener. Here it is. Hang on just a second. This is the cover letter. Let me hold it down here so you guys can't read over my shoulder. This is a form that you sign, okay? And it says, "I expressly acknowledge that blank trucking has given me a sufficient opportunity to carefully review and consider the independent contractor owner operator agreement before I signed it. I understand that I may take a copy of this document off the premises to review and consider it before signing it for however long I desire. I also understand I have the right to consult with and receive independent legal advice from an attorney regarding the agreement before signing it." Now, I know who this is. You know who this is. I'm impressed, but they didn't do this. They did this kicking and screaming, okay? Wonder how many times they were sued, and this was the reason why. They didn't give anybody ample time. So now you have to sign something saying that you realize that you acknowledge that you had time to do all that. I wonder if this individual did that. Well, he did it. He sent it to me, so. But it was already signed when I got it.
Right.
There's just so much hypocrisy in this.
Yeah, it's the problem is I was talking to a guy. Who was I talking to? Anyway, I was talking to somebody somewhere, and he was like, "Man, I just don't know how to read this settlement." I'm like, "How long have you been a Landstar?" "Oh, about 4 years." You've been there 4 years, and you still don't know how to read the settlement? Hello? Call somebody? Ask somebody? So, I spend about 8 hours every Wednesday reading a settlement, line by line, penny by penny. So granted, I'm well experienced in reading a settlement. And when I read this old boy's settlement that was sent to us today from XYZ Trucking Company, things jump out at me, right? I see, oh, okay, I know what that is. I know what that is. But at the end of the day, old boy's getting 21 cents a mile to drive a truck in 2024. Y'all, I made 23 cents a mile as a rookie in 1997. Why? Why, oh, why would you do that? It's just
And on
math.
top of that, we know for a fact that fuel surcharge right now is over 40 cents a mile.
Correct.
They're paying him 19 cents a mile. They just paid him the honest fuel surcharge. He doubled his pay.
Yep. Yep. And I saw that at Swift, the 30 days that I was a company driver at Swift. I ran into these guys out at Flagstaff. It's Little America. And I overheard them talking. You know, they were all lease operators. And I didn't let on, you know, that I was an owner operator, land starting that stuff. And I said, well, how's that fuel surcharge work? And he's like, oh, man, we get 11 cents a mile. And I opened my phone and went to the EIA website. And at that point in 2017, the fuel surcharge was almost 50 cents a mile.
50 cents, yeah, sure.
And these guys are getting 11. Like, you can go look at the same website I can look at. You can find the same information that I can find. But for whatever reason, you don't. And you're getting 11 cents. And here we are in 2024, 7 years later. And at one of these carriers is paying a guy 19.5 cents a mile fuel surcharge. That's criminal. You know, it ought to be. But as long as you idiots keep signing up for it, they're going to keep doing it. It's y'all, all the information in the world is available to us right now in 2024. I can understand back in the 90s when we couldn't have access to the information that we have now. A calculator would have helped me out a lot in 1999, but and I don't know what it is. I'd love one of these sociolog. What do you call them? Sociologists, sociologists, sociologists. Okay, somebody help me understand. Okay, in my hand. Okay, I have the most powerful communication device ever known to man. This thing can literally connect me to all the world's known information. Okay, but somebody will take a device like this, bypass Google, bypass the phone function where they could actually call someone that has answers. I'm talking about Landstar corporate office, by the way. They could literally call someone whose job, who gets paid with like benefits and vacation and everything. Their literal job is to answer the phone and tell you about permits or hazmat or how your settlement works. No. They go to Facebook and hey man, how my settlement work? To get somebody to lie to them, to tell them things that are not true. Let me go to a Facebook group where there's a concentration of ignorance and stupidity. And let me go ask these people how my settlement works, or how do I load my fuel card? Could use the communication device and call the corporate office. They'll tell you, and they'll tell you the truth. God help me. I don't know how we got here. Well, I do. It's called government schools. I know exactly how we got here. It's just fascinating to me, you know. And what's amazing is you get somebody like me, who's been running a fleet and 27 years of experience, or somebody like Larry, who's 50 years in business. And one of us goes and tries to answer one of these questions among this cesspool of dipshit morons, and we get run off. How dare you? Don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, buddy. All right, then. That's just it just fascinates me. My comment section on TikTok is filled with them, by the way. It's like I'm like a magnet for stupid people.
Pisses me off.
clear logist. Oh, that's Blake. Chris is preaching tonight. Well, I'm gonna pass the plate here in a minute. All right, so y'all get ready. Deadhead Trucking. I'm in a prime lease. I schedule my time off so that I'm not in the hole when I go back out. 3 weeks out, 3 to 4 days in home. After my last home time, my settlement was $1,400. Here's what fascinates me about prime. Okay, and I've now seen this 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times. Okay, I have seen. I'm dealing with one right now. Today is in my shop today. I've seen 3 or 4 people come through prime, okay, and make money, right? Legitimately straight up make money because they work like animals, like this deadhead trucking sits, right? And I go out 3 or 4 weeks and, and I get out there and I hustle. And I've seen 4 times now. We're on number 4. The first 3 went to prime, completed the lease, worked like animals. One guy worked 365 days straight. The entire lease, he did not go. I don't know, something like 90 grand. Okay. Cash. Bought a paid for truck. Came to us. I dispatched for him. Okay. I was his dispatcher at Landstar. I put $500,000 on him. And he's out of business. Why? Got a guy now who's been a BCO for about 8 weeks now. Okay. Came from Prime, was doing his deal, was doing good, has come to Landstar. We sat at lunch today and he was like, man, you ain't playing. This is hard. Like I mean, it's every week, something different coming at me because he had this buffer at Prime. He had all the dispatchers in the loop. You had this kind of institutionalized thing at Prime. Well, then they leave Prime and they come to Landstar. Oh, it's a whole different ball game, right? So I'm hoping that number 4, he's a really sharp guy. He's a hard worker. He's a great communicator. He's doing everything right. But I've seen 3 that have completely nosedived and are now out of business. And we try to tell you, you coming to Landstar, everybody is bald naked when you get here, right? They're gonna give you a mediocre orientation. They're going to hand you a fuel card. They're going to set you up with a login to the board, and they're going to wish you the best of luck. And if you figure it out, great. Great. Awesome. If you figure it out and you go out and you make money, congratulations. And if you fall on your face and fail, well, hate that for you. But there is no hand holding at Landstar. There are people that can help you, right? If you know how to ask the right questions, there are people that can help you. But if you come to Landstar and you're going to base your success or failure based on your orientation, boy, have I got a news for you. You are in for a very, very, very rude awakening, because the orientation at Landstar does not prepare you for anything, right? So you prime guys, those of you that know how to work and put your nose to the grindstone and go haul ass and make money, please understand that it is a completely different ballgame when you get over here. So do not take your winnings and go sign up for a damn lease from Lone Mountain. And please don't get a pie car. God help me, don't get a pie car. Take your spoils from your deserved hard work from Prime and go buy you a paid for truck and have 20 or 30 grand in the bank, because that first 6 months, man, is going to be brutal, and we'll help you. I mean, that's why we have the mentoring program. And this guy today, he said, dude, I would not have made it through the first 6 weeks without you. He absolutely would not have made it. He would have been in a really, really sad state of affairs, because he can call me and I can say, yeah, do this, do that. But man, it's tough. It's very tough. And you cannot, almost none of your experience at Prime is going to help you at Landstar. You might get some work ethic there, and you might get some vocabulary, some kind of understanding about how a truck operates. But boy, just be ready, because it's going to be hard. Let's see. I'm trying to look at the comment. Steve LaPlante, orientation at Landstar, a real joke.
We've got a fix for that, by the way. We're going to announce this at BCO Days. We have got Landstar orientation on steroids that we are offering. We're going to do it weekly online and monthly in person. So all you people that go to Landstar orientation and didn't learn anything and want to actually learn something, you can come to ours. Now, it's not free. We haven't set a price for it yet. It'll be very reasonable, but we'll have an option for you so you can come and actually get an orientation.
Mark Ely. I leased a truck from TEL Leasing. I got a 22 Freightliner Cascadia, $648 a week for 206 weeks, $44,000 buyout. I grossed over $1.2 million. My best decision I ever made. Mark, you paid $180,000 for a truck. $177,488 for a truck that will do the exact same job that my $10,000 Freightliner will. Okay. 200, I'm guessing this $1.2 million was over this 206 weeks. Man, that's $58.25 a week. That ain't bad. But you paid $177,000 for a truck. I mean, my God, I could operate a truck for 5 years and not spend that kind of money on it. I mean, I'm glad it worked out for you. Okay. But anybody that sees that comment, it's on YouTube. Please understand that's the exception, not the rule. Congratulations for, your hard work and it working out for you. All right. But please don't look at that and say, oh, well, hey, he did it, I can do it. No. It's the same thing I tell people that want to go run off and get their own authority. Please don't do that, by the way. If you have not been in business for at least 5 years operating a truck lease to a carrier, you have no business going and getting your own authority because your chances of failure are even higher than any other way that you would enter business in trucking. And then somebody will come along, well, I got my own authority, worked out great for me. Okay, congratulations. I'm glad that it worked for you. Well done. You have my admiration and respect because I understand how hard that is. It's very, very, very difficult. And if you did it and you survived, you deserve to be congratulated for your hard work and your success.
But it's unnecessary.
Yeah. And it's the exception, not the rule. The rule is, the statistical evidence is 95% of first-time owner-operators fail in the first 2 years. 95%. That's the statistic. And I know why. I see it every day, right? I see people go deliver a load at an address, and when I see the paperwork has been scanned in, the address on the bills of lading is 45 miles away in a different state. Well, I'm glad it worked out, but you can't not read the damn bill of lading. That's not an option. And get paid. Now, if you're a company driver, it's fine. They'll fix all your screw ups. They'll hold your hand and do everything for you. But when you're in business and you don't even bother to read the goddamn bill of lading and see what the address is, does it match the freight bill? Oh, I didn't even think about it. I didn't look at it. Okay, well, enjoy bankruptcy because that's what the hell's going to happen to you. That's not an option. You don't have an option to screw shit like that up and still get to stay in business. That's the difference. And so if you are not unbelievably detail-oriented and unbelievably disciplined, don't get your own authority because you're not going to be able to handle that. Period. Go lease to a carrier where there's some level of protection and some level of risk management. But for the love of all that is good and kind, these people, the entrepreneurial industrial complex trying to sell, oh man, $3,000, I'll get you set up and I'll set up your LOC and broker, blah, 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 blah. Who benefits? Not you. They do. The person you're paying $3,000 to set up your trucking company that you could go do on your own, Google it. It's just simple. It's just simple reporting. It's going on to websites and clicking on a keyboard to save your $3,000. Because listen, I know this is going to be hard to hear, but if you're not smart enough to figure out how to file your own, whatever it is, MCS 150, and you're not smart enough to go to the DOT website and set up your own stuff and go to your Secretary of State and set up your LLC, you don't need to be in business. You don't need to pay somebody $3,000 for something that you can do yourself. Now, it's one thing to consult an attorney, maybe look over some documents for you. That might cost you $300 or $400. Okay, that's a good safeguard. But these shitheads on TikTok and Instagram, they're selling you this pipe dream and all this bullshit about how, I'll set your trucking company up for you and you make all this money. You need to tell those people to pound sand, block them and get them out of your life. Because the one thing that's guaranteed out of that deal is your bankruptcy and your business failure. That's what you're going to get by paying some jackass $3,000 to do something you could do on your own. So I'm calling every one of you bastards out. All you TikTok, Instagram, entrepreneur, thieving sons of bitches. Y'all need to pound sand and stop selling people this pipe dream. And it's easy. It's just easy. It's just easy. No, it's not. It's hard. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's worth it. But I want everybody to like screen record what I just said and start sending it to all these jackasses that sell this. I'll set up your trucking company for you, and tell them I said I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. End rant. Got that out. And that has been brewing for a while. These people piss me off. Preston C, I'm not trying to be rude, but not everyone can do what you did with a $10,000 truck. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Everyone can do what I did with a $10,000 truck. I mean, unless you're brain dead. So who should you run under? Is HAZMAT worth keeping on your license? Well, you could run under Landstar or Mercer or whoever you want to run under. Is HAZMAT worth keeping on your license? Yes, absolutely. And if you come to Landstar, you must have HAZMAT. That's non-negotiable. You have to have HAZMAT. You don't have to have tanker, but it's almost a requirement because HAZMAT totes pay good money on a flatbed and on a van trailer. So I mean, it's what, $10 at your DMV. Go take the test.
Well, the more important thing there is that it's not the HAZMAT itself. Making yourself more valuable is worth it. And that's
Right.
a way to make yourself more valuable. When I was a company driver at Transport America, I voluntarily went to Canada. I voluntarily did HAZMAT. I did everything I could to make myself more valuable because it gave me more load opportunities. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. It costs money. It's trouble to do it. But the more value you provide, the more you get paid. So there's not a formula for that. If you go get your HAZMAT, you're going to make X number of dollars. That's not how it works. Increase your value, and you'll increase your income.
Yeah. One and the thing that always aggravates the shit out of me about, well, not everybody can do that. Yes, they can. The one thing about our business model, not everybody look. Yeah, our business model works in every single economic condition.
For
Okay?
anybody in any situation. But you have to want to, and you have to understand that you have to improve your value. You know how you improve your value in business? Serve your customer and quit worrying about your little piddly ass shit. Can everybody do it? Yes. Will everybody do it? No.
No. Wade's asking about a TWIC card. If you're running platform, it's probably a requirement. Here's the thing: if there's something available, get it.
Yeah,
Get it.
whatever
passenger
you can do to improve your value, If that, I mean, a TWIC card, we don't require it here. We don't really have use it that much because it's not something that we have to have. Our value is good in other areas, and it's not something we have to go do. But if I thought that having TWIC cards would help us, we'd all have them. But
Right.
in
I
our
mean,
situation, we don't work in the ports, and we're not close to borders, and it's just not something that we generally have to have.
we have not seen it be all that valuable in what we've done. Now, I used to have a TWIC card, and I think I saw it get used twice, right? But when I was at Anderson, okay, I saw the value in going to Canada. And at that time, 2011, 2012, 13, it was very lucrative to go to Canada. Okay. Well, I didn't have a passport. And I looked, and a passport was, I don't know, $150 or whatever it was. But I could get this little card called a fast card, and it was like $25. I'm okay, I'll do that. So I got the fast card, and the fast card allowed me to go to Canada. And I went to Canada on a bunch of $8 and $10, $12,000 loads. That helped me. Well, I no longer have that card because I no longer go to Canada, right? And I still don't have a passport. Um,
Let me tell you
but
something
at
else you can do to improve your value, okay?
right,
Pay
but
your
Atlantic
pay
Star,
your pay your damn child support.
oh, there's a big one. There's a big one. You know,
You
if
by the way
only
by
there
the way,
was
you
a way.
can't go to Canada if you owe child support.
Yeah, and apparently you can't qualify at Landstar if your license has been suspended so many times because of not paying child support. If only there was a way to keep your license from getting suspended from not paying child support. Um,
Only.
look, the Landstar has the TSA thing, and it's like you answer some questions on a website. You know, you email the guy, "Hey, man, I want to do TSA," and he sends you a little thing, and you do it. Now I'm TSA certified, and I can go to the airports. Whatever it is, you know, we start people out in vans because it's easy, right? You don't have to have any special equipment except some straps. You don't have to have any really special licenses. But then people are like, okay, I want to go try this platform thing. Well, there's an investment required. You have to buy securement equipment, and buying it used is going to cost you $2,000, $2,500 for chains and straps and tarps and all the stuff that you need. And then we have probably the best BCO at Landstar on our team that teaches everybody every single day. Everybody has to take a picture of their load securement and send it to that group so he can correct it. And they all learn from one another. But I mean, what was that? He saw a load the other day. It was some like extendable flatbed load that paid like $15,000 or some crazy, crazy number. Okay, well there's your opportunity, right? Do you want to get into platform? Do you want an extendable trailer? Do you want a Conestoga? Do you want a step deck? Do you want an extendable trailer? Do you want a double drop RGN? Like there's so many things that you can do to specialize yourself after you've learned how to run your business. That has to come first. It's the fundamentals. All right. If the fundamental is communicating and documenting and bookkeeping, right? I promise you, if I lined every one of our people up here right now and I said, all right, show me your spreadsheet, they'd be all looking around going, I'm not sure what you're talking about, sir. Right. I know they're not doing it. Right. Because they think, oh, well, oh, I'm not doing it now. I'll do it when I get my truck. Okay. All right. Let me know how that works out. Because here's the opportunity. Right? That's what we do. We give you the opportunity to see how it's done every single day. And if you're lazy and you're not paying attention to the details, I'm talking to you, blue ribbon people.
Or you're not
Right?
curious.
If you're not curious, curiosity. I hate that curiosity killed the cat. Right? I mean, these schools just strip all of the curiosity out of people. You know, I mean, I've got a 9-year-old in the other room that I love his curiosity because he's just a thinker, and he'll look at something, he'll see it for the first time, and I can see the wheels turning, and he'll figure it out, right? He will eventually disassemble something in this house. Now it'll never ever be assembled again, right? But boy, it'll get taken apart, um, so. Cameron Hines. Why do I know that name? We talked before, Cameron. Just says help. Face shitter. If my license was suspended in 15 for child support, would Landstar disqualify me? I don't think so. The one that we recently heard about was multiple times. It was my license was suspended too many times. So I don't know, like one time. Probably not a big deal. But it sounds like this old boys was getting canceled every other week. So, but y'all pay your child support. I mean, I know it sucks, but it's kind of a big deal. Phil, BCM is installed, truck is up and running. All right, good deal. Boy, Phil has had some technical difficulties over the last couple of weeks with that truck. And we've learned, here's a public service announcement for you. If you're running a ProStar, you have metric fittings on your fuel tanks. And just about every fitting you're going to find is going to be standard thread, not metric. So might want to go on over and get you some metric thread air fittings to have in your side box, because if one of those suckers goes out, you will never find one on the road. And they're like $30 a piece, of course.
Cameron says he doesn't know where to start. Well, Cameron, here's where you start. www.blueribbonlogistics.com, and we'll help you get started, okay?
I have seen Cameron's name somewhere. I feel like we've had a conversation before. That sounds really, really, really familiar.
And Tyler, Landstar does not haul fuel.
Yeah.
Cameron says he's trying to do his spreadsheet for this week. So obviously we've talked to him.
Yeah. I have, he submitted an application in February.
As a mentoring client or as a student?
No, as a student. Humble, Texas. So we've had a conversation with Cameron somewhere before. Or he ghosted us, one or the other. Well, here's the thing. All right, guys, I'm a spreadsheet guy. I'm a nerd. Okay. I taught myself how to make and build spreadsheets, but paper, if it ain't wrote down, it didn't happen. So let's say you're at Landstar and you don't have a computer and you don't have a spreadsheet. Well, go get you a notebook. And when you get a load, write down your freight bill number and write down what the load's supposed to pay. Write down, I don't know, the agent code and the phone number, maybe the person you talked to, the city and state where you picked it up and delivered it. And when you get your settlement, go to that page in that notebook. And
think of it as a log sheet, not a spreadsheet. Then it seems easier.
Take you a red pen, and if what that settlement says matches that notebook, put a red check mark on it. Okay, great, I got paid. But if it don't match, hey, contractor services, why does this pay not match what my freight bill says? But if it's not written down, it never happened. So when you get fuel, write it down, or go to Fuel Gauges and get a free letstruck.com and get a free Fuel Gauges account. Profit Gauges is only $19 a month. I mean, y'all, that's for the level of kind of accounting and bookkeeping you get from Profit Gauges for $19. I mean, it's a no-brainer for $19 a month. And you can run your entire business with Profit Gauges and a notebook. You don't have to get super complicated. The spreadsheets and the and all that stuff, would help. Because it's digital. When you put a spreadsheet in the cloud and the truck burns down and burns up your paper notebook, all your data is protected in the cloud. Modern technology has made this a lot easier. That when you get a receipt in your hand, you scan it into Dropbox, which is free. iCloud is free, right?
The mystery has been solved. He owns his own truck. He needs to park it to come to the program. TikTok, Chris.
Yeah, I vaguely remember something about that conversation. Yes, but episode 220 is for me. Okay. I mean, listen, y'all should probably go. What's that guy? Oh man, his name just escaped me. He's kind of like Dave Ramsey, but he screams and cusses at people on TikTok and YouTube. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. So, but go watch, and if you're not horrified by what you see, and that doesn't make you look in the mirror and go, "Gosh, I hope I'm not as dumb as these people."
Did I just see vulgarity come out of Jared Anderson's mouth?
Yeah, he's had some kind of issue. Let me live read it. Uh-oh.
This is
Yeah,
our
as I am raising hell about somebody not reading a bill of lading, I just get a text message from one of my drivers. Well, my bill of lading has a different destination than where I'm headed. But let's think about that. All right. A perfect example. The reason that we do this, okay, we have to make a profit to stay in business. Okay. But the reason that we do this is to give people like him the opportunity to do stupid stuff like that and not go bankrupt. Right. Because these mentoring clients that we see that have gone on over to Lone Mountain and got them a truck and have that truck payment hanging over their head and the big physical damage insurance policy and all that stuff.
haven't overcome the problem with not seeing their family.
Yeah. See, when you're in one of our trucks, we suffer the consequences, now I'm going to chew that ass, but you still get paid as a driver. Even when you royally screw up your entire week, you're still going to get paid. And you do that and stuff in business, you don't get paid, right? Caleb Hammer. Thank you, Richie. Caleb Hammer on TikTok and YouTube. Go watch his videos. It's horrifying and entertaining to watch him sit and look at people and tell them, number one, they need to work more than 15 hours a week, and that when their car gets repossessed, hey, you still owe that money because you signed a contract. What? I just thought when they came and took the car, it was over. No, you still owe for whatever the bank sells it for. I mean, it's horrifying. It is a microscope that looks at Western civilization and goes, y'all are way, way, way off track. It's terrible. No, not the Rich Dad Poor Dad guy. That's Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, Caleb Hammer. Just go watch because it's terrifying. It's terrifying that there are people. Not only are they that dumb, but they'll get on the internet and tell everybody how dumb they are. So anyway, and Barb, Barb has stopped driving and has taken over. She's now kind of the what do you call it, service advisor at camps. And I put her up some whiteboards, to help. And she has in big red letters, because you talk about something, she chases them guys around with paperwork and knives and guns and stuff. But it says in big letters, if it isn't written down, it did not happen. And she stays in a pretty much state of furiousness because these knuckleheads won't write anything down, and they go in the parts room and get all kinds of stuff. And she's constantly chasing them. I mean, there's going to be violence one of these days. I mean, she's going to hurt somebody, and I'm here for it. I just hope I get it on video. It'd be a great addition to our weekly blog. You probably don't know about this. CW says, hell, I'm starting a mega fleet. I did the Chase glitch. So have you heard about the Chase glitch?
You talking to me? No, yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're gonna love this. Okay, so some knucklehead or group of knuckleheads figured out, I know I have, I don't know if you ever have, where you can use an app for your bank and take a picture of your check and deposit it in the bank digitally.
Yeah.
Okay. These Darwin Award recipients wrote a check, a bad check, okay, for like thousands of dollars from their own account and either put it in an ATM or use the app. And of course, the app put the money in their bank or and they took it out of the ATM. Thousands of dollars. And they thought it was a glitch. Okay? They called it the Chase glitch. It's all over TikTok. So these single-celled organisms wrote a bad check, put it in the bank, cashed it, and went and spent all the money. And I'm talking now, there's one said they went and bought a G-Wagon. I don't know if that one was true. And then the reconciliation came through. And so, boom, you're negative. One was a screenshot, negative $30,000. Oh my gosh. You mean I got to pay all that money back? They were mystified. They could not believe that writing a bad check and cashing it was going to someday come back. I mean, God Almighty. So just if you watch the Chase glitch video, the algorithm will bless you with about 600 videos about the Chase glitch. I mean, my God, that's a special kind of stupid. I mean,
at least there's a great pool of potential truck drivers there that the recruiters can go to work with.
If you think about the timeline, okay, these are probably the people that were eating the Tide Pods. And now it has come around. They ate the Tide Pods. The Tide Pods have sizzled their brains. And now they think they can write a bad check, put it in the bank and cash it, and everything's going to be okay. Right? So it's just a cycle that we're working through. I don't know what the next thing will be, but I'm here for it. I can't wait for it to happen. But Hawkeye, it's called fraud, basically. It's called check fraud, and you can go to prison. Not jail, prison. There's a big difference between prison and jail, okay? And you're going straight to prison for a thing called check fraud. Oh, I mean, listen, I've always said that my comment section on TikTok is enough to evidence for the prosecution if we could have a trial to shut down every government school in America immediately and permanently. But this thing right here, I mean, that's enough right there. Shut them down. Just y'all have failed humanity on a global scale. Shut her down. Shut her down, Smitty. She's sucking mud. It's over.
Well, I don't know why we haven't figured this out before, but we talk about how bad politicians are.
Oh,
You know who produces politicians?
Mm-hmm.
Government schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best that we produce.
Yeah.
That should be enough evidence on its own, okay?
Well, so we've been homeschoolers for 18 years, right? So we get all kinds of, nonsense, hate, and discontent. But somebody pointed out one time, said, okay, just so we're clear, y'all are upset. We're not qualified to school our kids because we went to the schools that y'all want us to send our kids to. So we're not qualified because we went to the schools that you want us to send our kid. Okay, just
I've got a good one for you. Listen, I'm gonna make your day.
okay.
Blue Ribbon is the homeschool of Landstar.
There you go. There you go. Oh, yeah.
That's what I should have called that. That's what I should have called that orientation class. Homeschool. I'm gonna change it. And I'll go back to the printer for that.
Well, listen, seriously. Let's just all jokes aside. All it is self-education, y'all. Okay. Now, there opportunities exist today in 2024 that didn't exist 30 years ago in 1994 when I graduated high school. Okay. But self-education, right, is just you being curious, asking questions, and seeking information. Okay. Now you've got to get around a little thing called confirmation bias, which is hard to get away from because you all got your little teams and your cliques and your religious associations and your political affiliations.
Colored jerseys, yeah.
You got to get around a bunch of that stuff because, and me and a guy were talking today. I said, man, there are things that I believe today that I absolutely did not believe 15, 20, 30 years ago. And there are things that I believed then that I absolutely, completely, totally reject. But I believed them because that was what the environment around me, the family and the religion and different associations,
Influence.
and influence. Yeah, and I believe things that were absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And I no longer believe those things today. And that has come from self-education, being curious, asking questions. How does that work? And then, and Larry can give you probably the most important piece of advice. If you want to know whether you're talking to somebody, if you want to know whether or not they're full of shit, ask them why and then be quiet. Just ask them why. Oh,
One
you should
simple
buy your fuel in all the high tax states. Oh, why? Oh, because you don't know. You just repeated what sounded good to you at the time, and then you've accepted that as truth. Well, I should buy all my fuel in high tax states. No, 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 no. You should buy all your fuel in the low tax states. Why? No, you should buy fuel based on what the actual cost of the fuel is. Oh, ask why, and then hush and listen, and they'll tell you. I saw I don't know where it's at in the TikTok, but somebody, deregulation's what into the industry. That's stupid. There's absolutely
Why?
no why. Yeah. Why did deregulation harm the industry? Okay. Well, they're going to repeat a bunch of political talking points that aren't based in reality. They're going to repeat a bunch of financial data that has been proven over and over and over again to not be true. They're going to come up with all these statistics that have been yet again proven over and over and over again to not be true. But by God, it sounds good, and I believe everything I think. Well, the road to hell is paved with you believing everything you think. You stare out that windshield all day, listening to nonsense on talk radio or podcast or whatever you hear, and it's all just a bunch of bullshit that has no basis in reality.
I got a book in today I ordered a couple of days ago. The name of it is "Don't Believe What You Think."
That's a good book title.
I'll give it to you once I read it.
Okay, I got to check this. CW on TikTok says, think about back to the Chase glitch. They came out with the numbers today. $93 million was stolen. I got to look that up. I'm going to the Book of Knowledge right now. Chase glitch. Oh, learn how to spell, dummy. Chase.
He's talking about everybody who did the glitch. Total was 93 million.
All right. I'm waiting for 5 hours ago. It says send me into prompting users, knowledge development. It's not clear how the glitch trend began, but by last Saturday, the meme had exploded on the TikTok. Criminal statutes. I don't see anything about $93 million. Rolling Stone.
Tommy, do you want Chris's email or my email, or who's he looking for?
Use BRLS podcast, Blue Ribbon Logistical Solutions, BRLS podcast at gmail.com.
That gets both of us.
Yeah. Well, let me try. I'm going to try one more search term. 93.
While we're doing this, let me put a shameless plug out there, so I don't just disappoint Blake earlier. He was telling everybody to watch their wallets. So we're here to help you. You know, if you have, if you know, we're kind of we make fun of a lot of things here, but if you're a victim of your own bad decisions, you've gotten into a lease purchase, you're in this industry, you don't know how to, you're suffering because you're not making any money. Reach out to us and talk to us. We can help you. Now, you might not like all the things that we recommend, but that's what we're here to do, is to help people out and then make them profitable and show them the error of their ways. So if you're serious about wanting to improve your situation and you're not you don't object to making personal changes, then reach out to us and let's work with you. I promise we won't be mean to you. Chris will be a little angry at first when he first meets you, but then he softens up. But Larry or Chris or BRLS podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
BRLSpodcast@gmail.com.
or the Larry at blueribbonlogistics.com or Chris at blueribbonlogistics.com. Reach out to us and we'll set up a time to talk with you, and we'll show you how we can help you. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah. And let's
And if your truck needs help, we've got the best shop. We've already worked on things that other shops have messed up. I'm not going to mention any names, but some very, very, very big name shops that you would recognize. We have fixed problems that they could not fix.
Yep.
We're really, really good, and we're really, really fair. We're seeing shops all over the country charging $250 an hour to work on semi trucks. Chris, what's our rate over there?
$125.
$120, half, and we fix it right. So come see us over in Charleston, West Virginia. Blue Ribbon Specialized Truck Services in conjunction with CAMS, CAMS Service Center, 6th Avenue in Charlotte or Charleston. Not Charlotte, Charleston. Make an appointment online, blueribbonlogistics.com/truck services. Chris, is that what it is?
Just blueribbonlogistics.com. There's a button to go to truck services right on the front page.
Okay. Make yourself an appointment and come on over. We'll take good care of you. You'll be over there with our people. And we got hotels that will take care of you. We've got restaurants that'll take care of you. You'll be amongst friends over there. So
and let's mention Pittsburgh Power. We are temporarily out of stock at the shop of Max Mileage, but we can drop ship it to you. So if you go to the website.
By the way, I got that handled today.
All right, perfect. So
it has been shipped. It has been shipped.
We'll probably be out of stock for a few days, but if you need it and you want us to ship it, we can drop ship it to you. Robert M504, where do I get the tire pressure gauge device? We recommend, I don't get any money for this. But the website that you can buy the tire pressure monitor system from is called technorv.com. They have reasonable prices and I think free shipping. You're looking about, I think $450, $500. Yeah, $400 or $500.
You're actually going to buy it for an RV.
Yeah, they're an RV website, but they sell.
Right.
Somebody was asking me about the crossfires. Did we get that set up with that guy?
We have not got it set up yet. I haven't called him. So
okay. But yeah, we're working a deal at some point. There's a guy that has modified the Crossfire to have 2 tire pressure monitors on it. It's really, really slick. And we're working on getting a deal where we can sell those at the shop. So we'll let you know when that happens. Tommy Lavarnway, I know you guys talk a lot about trucks, do's, don'ts, etc. What's your guys' opinion on trailers? Well, our advice is with Landstar. We do not advise anyone to buy a van trailer. You'd lose too much drop and hook opportunity. However, owning a flatbed is a pretty good deal. 53s preferably, flats. 48s are okay. Conestogas make really good money.
All this advice is based on our freight ability at Landstar. Let me qualify that, okay? It works for us because we're going to use these trailers at Landstar, and our trailer expert Phil, who's on here, tells us that 53-foot flats, not 48s, and no step decks, and 48 or 53 Conestogas, we can get plenty of good paying freight to keep them running. So that's why we recommend those. Now, outside of Landstar, our advice is probably worthless to you.
Right. Which just comes to studying your market, right? I had talked to a guy one day that had a curtain side van. And he and I were having a conversation, and he's like, well, I own a curtain side van. I picked up my phone. I texted Phil. I said, Phil, does a curtain side van have any value at Landstar? He said, it does not. Okay. So I told the guy, I talked to the expert, and I told the guy, I said, well, according to Phil, the curtain side van has no value at Landstar. Well, they told me it did. I said, no, see, you talked to somebody in a cubicle, and that person in the cubicle, when you said, do y'all have freight for a curtain side van? And they looked at a piece of paper and went, yeah, sure we do. No, not enough to sustain you. Right. So,
plus you're talking to somebody that gets paid a bonus to get you here.
Right.
We do not recruit for Landstar. We do not try to recruit for Landstar. We have nothing to gain by having you come to Landstar. Actually, we would prefer you not, because you want to compete with us then, and you can't do it. We're the best. So we're going to beat you if you come here. So go somewhere else.
Right. I mean, look, we are at Landstar because Landstar is the best place for us to do what we do. Right. But like any corporation or carrier, they got issues. We have learned to work through those issues. Right. I had something weird happen with a tire purchase today. I just called LCAP. I said, hey, you walk me through this, and we got it straightened out. No big deal. But I've talked to these people so many times, they know my name when I call. Right. When, I call card services. Hey, it's Chris. Oh, hey, how you doing? Like that experience helps me solve problems and answer questions. And sometimes I can answer your question without having to call Landstar, just because I've done this a lot, and it would be awesome as many times as we've been through the qualification process that we could make that better, but we can't. We are absolutely powerless. And that's why we call it the gauntlet.
Well, we haven't used the power that we have to fix that. And that would require Richie to bring equipment with him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So,
but another shameless plug, if you're at Landstar, this is part of what when you come here and we mentor you or coach you, navigating Landstar is part of what we teach here. So if you're at Landstar and you don't understand how to navigate these problems at Landstar, come talk to us. We will set you up as a client, and we'll teach you how to navigate Landstar. We've been here a long time. We both have very, very fat contact lists that we can pull out and use.
All right. Thank you. Speak for yourself. Yes, we do have a lot of contacts. Now, I'm going to read something to y'all from our website. That's very important. It's probably the most important question on our website. Are you willing to be coached and mentored and held accountable for your decisions and actions? When you're driving one of my trucks in our program and you are our employee, I get to tell you what to do. And you're going to do what I tell you what to do, or you're not going to drive that truck anymore, right? But when you are a mentoring client, you're a BCO, you have your own business, and you're in charge of your own ship. I don't have the authority to tell you what to do. I can guide you. I can advise you. There are some things that are kind of non-negotiable when it comes to communication protocols. But I will fire you, right? I will. And there was one time I asked a guy, I said, dude, seriously, why are you paying us money to not listen to a damn thing we have to say? Like, why are you paying me right now? Because it's baffling to me that you will pay us every Friday for the work that we do and not do an absolute thing we ask you to do. You have to be coachable, because we can help you. We can, with some limited exceptions, we can unscrew everything that you've screwed up, right? And we can rebuild things and get you going in the right direction. But if you're not coachable and not willing to listen, please don't waste your time or mine. because it will be an unpleasant situation for
It
you.
will be a brief relationship because we will not put up with that very long, and we'll
Yeah.
quit. And this guy, by the way, we quit taking his money. So,
Right.
it'll go on for a week or two, but then it would come to a sudden screeching halt.
Okie Finoki, have you tried anyone besides Landstar? Larry had a guy that got canceled by Landstar or something, and he took that truck to Mercer. The guy ended up buying the truck and staying at Mercer.
If you listen to my story, I had 4 trucks at Transport America doing what I did. And so when I decided to leave, I sent all 4 of those trucks to 4 different places. UPS Freight, North American Van Lines, Transport America. I left 1 truck there and the other one at Landstar. And so Landstar was by far the most successful of those 4 trucks. So I had a limited research, but also had a connection with all those people out there in Kansas City at Kevin's seminar every summer. And so I had 350 people out there from all over the country. Some of those I was doing mentoring for them. Some of them I were just friends with. It wasn't official, but I knew a lot about a lot of different companies, and I was just attracted to Landstar because the guys who were there, I liked what they told me. They were successful. The biggest thing that we need at Landstar is the ability to run our business the way we want to. We don't have these parameters that we cannot work inside of. Some of the other places we don't have the ability to stack loads and do the things that we do here because they don't permit it. So it worked for us, and once I got here and it worked, there was no reason to look anywhere else. I mean, we like it here. This is exactly what we want. We've made all the relationships now. We've conquered all the problems, and we've gotten over the 35% and all the things everybody's so scared about at Landstar. None of those are an issue, so we don't need to look any further. It's just like when you find the right woman, find the right woman, you quit looking. Okay, so with Landstar, we found the right woman, and so we're happy. We're here. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere else. Now they may fuck up tomorrow and it might change everything, but until that happens, but that's how this decision was made, And then I met Chris, and Chris had been successful at Landstar. So I mean, all these things just reinforced the decision.
Right.
So I don't know if it answered your question or not, but gave me a chance to talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But we tell everybody right up front, Landstar is not for everybody. If you are not self-sufficient, if you have to have, hand holding, don't come here. This is Chris just talked about a situation between Prime and Landstar. A guy was successful at Prime, came here with a $500,000 worth of business that we gave him, and he failed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not automatic. You're not going to come here and just automatically succeed. It's a level playing field that gives you the opportunity to succeed, but that success is not guaranteed. The opportunity is guaranteed, but the results are not. So it's and listen, we meet a lot of people who should not be here, and we don't sugarcoat that. I mean, if you cannot stand on your own, if you can't make your own decisions and understand the consequences of those decisions, you need not be here. This is a perfect place if you are self-sufficient. If you're not, it's a horrible place for you to be.
Right. Yeah, it's it's someone I heard someone say one time, it's as close as you can get to having your own authority without actually having your own authority, because your behavior is a lot the same. You kind of operate the same way that you would if you had your own authority, your relationship with the agents and kind of how you just don't have to worry about all the billing. You scan the paperwork, you get paid. There's no factoring, none of that nonsense.
Tommy asked the question, if Landstar was no longer an option, what would we do next? Well, if Landstar wasn't the option, we would start our own Landstar. We call it Lunastar. So that's what we would do next. Okay.
Larry, how long?
I got my
Yeah.
CDL in 2008. I bought my truck in June of 2009. I drove full time until December of 2019. I haven't driven since then. And those of you that know me by listening to the thing know that I am not eligible to drive now because of a medical situation I had in January. So I had already voluntarily disqualified myself from Landstar. Now I have to disqualify myself from having a CDL because I can't pass the medical right now. So,
Right.
but I drove from 2009 to 2019 full time, so over 10 years, June to December. Well, actually, I started driving in 08. I bought my truck in 09, but I was a company driver from 08 to 09.
Mini-Me on YouTube, do you guys have any input on what the budget when buying a used flatbed trailer to repair airbags, axle hubs, etc.? I mean, you could go crazy, but you could probably get 4 airbags buy them a set for $400 or $500, and if you wanted to just go all new hubs, the hub's about $500. But I mean, it's really not much to it. I mean, so 5, 10, 15, you could probably spend $3,000 to $5,000 and just replace everything, right? Just brakes and drums and seals and hubs. I mean, you could go crazy if you wanted to, or just get somebody to do a really good inspection on it.
Did you see the truck catch on fire? Did you see the truck catch on fire under the awning in Petro in Bordentown?
Yep. Yep. What type of insurance do you require? I don't require insurance because I'm not a carrier. Do we miss being out of the truck? I mean, there are moments when I miss the solitude, but not enough to go back.
Talking to you guys on Friday night reminds me why I don't miss being in the truck. Okay.
I mean, I love traveling. I mean, I
enjoyed it. I made a lot of money. I enjoy doing it, but I don't miss it. I mean, there's a lot of things I've done in my life I don't do anymore that I don't miss. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
But let me give you an example. This is an example of life after trucking. I'm in the trucking industry. I deal with it all day long, every day, but I don't drive the truck. I can sit home in my house and make money more than I did as a driver, and not have to be on the road and not have to overcome the problem we talked about earlier tonight.
Right.
So I mean, it's just a different opportunity. I can be in the industry. I really enjoy the helping other people part. Guys that are out there doing this, and we can help them be more profitable, make their business better, get them to the point where they can do this, because no one that comes to our program thinks about being a fleet owner. But after they've been here for a few months, they see, you know what? I could do this over a 4 or 5 truck fleet, and I could stay home and I can make this money at home, not have to be out here overcoming, not seeing my family. So it just, the goalpost moves on you as you mature in this industry.
Rocky says he don't miss it at all and hope he never have to go back on the road again.
Well, he was a car hauler.
Yeah. Well,
That's
somebody said, Hawkeye says, build a super seat RV out of an old truck. That's something I might consider, to take an old mid-roof Columbia or something and pull a fifth wheel, with it. That I could handle that, because
I once thought that was a good idea. I no longer think that's a good idea.
Well, I'm still young enough, and I'd love to take the kids.
It's called a jetliner. It's called a jetliner. You get on it, they do all the driving, and you get there at 600 miles an hour.
Yeah. Shago on TikTok. Are you brokers, dispatchers? No, we have a fleet of trucks leased to Landstar. We have an 18-month program to teach people how to be in business. this is episode 220 of the podcast that we do about 2 hours every night. So we've got 400 or 500 hours talking about what we do. But we provide an opportunity for people to come and learn how to run a profitable trucking business without any risk. That's what we do.
We run an education program. Dispatching is part of what we do to teach other people how to do it. We're not brokers. We don't hate brokers. Brokers are our customers, but it's not what we do.
Richie says, good luck getting Chris on an airplane. Yeah, Chris is not a big fan of airplanes.
That's because I'm going to get him on an airplane because I've got something I'm planning for him, but he doesn't know about it yet. So I'm going to take, my son and I are going to Vegas in this fall. I'm going to take Chris. Chris, we're going to Vegas. We're going to go see a professional football game at Allegiant Stadium. And then we're going to go see the Eagles in the Sphere. So it's an expensive weekend, bitch. So you are going.
Oh, okay. Well, I certainly would like to see is the Eagles at that big thing? The
Sphere, yeah. Yeah,
Sphere?
the Sphere.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well,
we're not driving out there. Okay. We're flying out there. Okay. So,
well, y'all, we have hit the 2 hour mark. We will be back with you. Remember, so Wednesday night, I'll have the financial report. Thursday will be the shop vlog, week 4. Next Friday night, 8:00 will be the podcast. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you next time.
Don't forget, on September the 17th, we'll be live off and on all day with interviews while we're road tripping it down to Durant, Oklahoma.
Yep. All right. Well,